Hello and welcome to Core Java. Well, in this tutorial, we'll continue with our topic that is file IO and streams. From this tutorial, we'll start with overwriting a file. So let's see what is overwriting a file. Well, opening an output file creates an empty file, right? Because if you try to just open an output file, it will create an empty file. Opening a output file also creates a new file if it does not already exist. Okay. Now opening a output file that already exists eliminates the old file and create new empty one. So data in original file is lost. So you see, if I'm having abc.txt in my file and using my print writer, if I again try to open it for writing purpose, that is using print writer object, then it will create a new file abc.txt, or it can say it will open that file but it will eliminate the old file and create a new empty file. So thus my data in abc.txt will be eliminated. Now to see how it happens, we can even try doing that. So so let's side by side open our Eclipse Studio and also try doing that. But before that, first let us also see the solution. What's the solution for that? Well, the solution for that is appending to the text file. That means instead of opening a file in a simple mode, let's open a file in a append mode. How to open a file in a append mode? Append means to just add a text, whatever is written. Let's say if ABC is having a count till 1 to 100, then if you open it in a append mode, it will open your file by keeping all your data as it is, that is 1 to 100, so that after 1 to 100 you can write more data. That means you can append more data. So now how to open a file in a append mode using file output stream is adding true with the as a parameter with the file name. So when we do file output stream, if you are adding a file name, just add true with it. That means the append mode is true. Append mode is on. Okay, so the second parameter is used to append to end of file if it exists. So the sample code for letting user tell whether to replace or append is this. So you can see we are asking the user if you want to append or open a new file. So it's saying A for append or N for new file. So user have to press something. So again we are using some keyboard.next.char at, and then we are taking user input in our character which is ANS answer. Okay, and then we are actually matching. So we are having a boolean variable append, and the value that we are giving is according to this thing. That is, like if answer is equal to A or small a, then append will become true. Otherwise, append will remain false. Okay. Now, when we pass this append variable in our file output stream, so what it does it actually checks for the value of append. So if the user entered capital A or small a, the value of append will be true, and thus true will be passed over here and the file will be opened in the appended mode. Okay. If user passed something which is not a, n or any other character, then it will open a new file. Okay. So that's how we can even ask user if he wants to append to a file or open a new file. So appending a file is like a really useful thing that we should know and should do while opening a file, because we don't want to override our data every time. Now let's also see closing a file, and after that we'll try an example. So output file should be closed when you are done writing to it, and input file should be closed when you are done reading from it. Use the close method for class print writer, or it can also be like BufferedReader also has a close method. For example, to close a file open in our previous example, we can use output stream.close. Okay, so this will close your file. If program ends normally, it will close any files that are open. Okay. So that is how your files get closed. Okay, then there is a question, why bother to close a file? Why do you need to actually close a file? So well, the answer is something which I have already told you. So I hope so that it is clear by now. But if not, let's study this. So if a program automatically closes a file when it's run normally, then why close them with explicit call to close? Well, there are two reasons for that. One is to make sure it is closed if the program ends abnormally, because it could be possible, right? Your program might end abnormally, there could be exception in your program, at any time it could occur. So you have to make sure that your files are closed properly, because it might happen a normal ending also, which could, keep your file open and keep that the data get damaged. Okay. Now, second reason is a file opened for writing must be closed before it can be opened for reading. It could happen that in your program, firstly you are writing to a file, then you also need to read it from that file. So when you try to open it for read and if you haven't closed it, then you won't be able to open it for read. It will give you an exception. So although Java does have a class that opens a file both for reading and writing, but when we say like for the text file, not in use in this text where we are using print writer. So you should close it explicitly. Fine. Just open your Eclipse IDE with me. Okay, so I have created a source folder which is streams, and over there I'll create a package. So the package I'm creating is src.com.java.file.io. Okay, and then let me create class which is naming it file write. Okay. Now inside the main method, let me first, print writer object. So we also need to import the class for print writer, which is java.io.package. Okay, so we have imported that. Now we need to add try catch, because in order to open a file, this might give us file not found exception. So let's import file not found exception also. And now let's try to open our file. Now we have to create the object of your output stream. So which one of these will be using? So these are all the constructors you can see. So we are actually using this one. Okay. So if we use this one, so it's asking us whether you want to create anonymous in your class. No, we don't want to do that. So let's do it over here like new. Now we need to give the path. Let me give the absolute path, or I can even give a relative path. So for now, just for a simplicity, let me give the path to my desktop. See, I do have a file write. So let me just copy the path for write. Since I'm doing it on a Windows machine, so either I have to reverse these or I have to put a double one so that it's fine. And now let me do like output.txt. So you see, I'm actually trying to open this file which is output.txt. I also need to import file output stream, and in case my file is not found, let me add something. Error in opening file. Okay, and let me also print the stack trace. Okay, now let's run our code. So you see, right now I do have done simple mistakes in it. The first and most common mistake that I have done is I haven't closed the stream, which is really important. So I should do that. And where I should do that? Should I do it in try? Should I do it in catch? Or should I do it after try catch? Well, you should do it in a finally block. Why so? Because that is the most important thing to do, because even in a case exception occur after this, let's say if I am having 2-3 more lines of code, any lines of code and exception occur after this line. So that means our output stream is open, but exception occurred after that. And if we do it like in that try, then it will never get closed. And let's say if exception do not occur, and if we do it in catch, then again it will never get closed. So finally is the place where whatever we have written always gets executed. Okay. So if we do close over here, then that means it will always be executed in each and every case. Now let's run our program. So you see our program has run, but since we haven't used any SOP, that's why nothing is getting printed. Now let's go to the desktop to see if there is any file that is created. So you see there is a file output that is created, but up till now we haven't actually written anything in it. That's why it's empty. So we have opened our file. Now let's try to write something in it. To write it, we can use output stream dot println. Okay, and then whatever we want to write. Let's say I want to write, this is my first file IO program. So it will write the same thing to your file. Now let's run our program again and see whether it has written this thing to our file or not. So if I just open it, you see it has written that. Now let's try to write something else. Now let's say, so see, I have replaced that text and I'm running it for the second time, and I'll try to run it again. So now let's see what has happened. So if I open that file, you see it is having I am running it for second time, but whatever we have written previous to that this is our first file IO program is gone. Okay, so this has overwritten. What if we want to save that, we want to append that? So we have already studied how to do that. Well, for that just add a true parameter, which is for to know whether you want to append or not with file output stream. So if you do that, and if I just rewrite my previous code, so my code was, this is my first file IO program, and I'm just running it again. So you see that now it has appended. So since previously I was writing it, I'm running it for the second time. So it's already present and it has appended. This is my first file IO program to it. Now if I just change my text to something else, running for third time, and if I just run it, and if I open my file, so you see this is also appended to it. So this is how you open your file and you write your file. So output.txt was not present, so it actually created that file. If it has been present, it would open the same file, and since we added true, that's why it is opened in the append mode. And it's also important to close the file. Okay, now let's go back to the slides to study about reading from the file. Okay, now it is text file input. Now let's see how to open a text file from input and connect a text file to stream for reading. Well, what's the goal? Well, the goal is to create a BufferedReader object which uses FileReader to open the text file. So FileReader connects BufferedReader to text file. So for example, if you see this, BufferedReader smiley in stream equals to new BufferedReader, new FileReader, and then you can pass your file which you want to read. So in this way, your FileReader will be acting as a buffer to read that file and provide it to BufferedReader for reading it. And BufferedReader, how does BufferedReader read it? Well, actually it read it in a chunk. Now, similarly, if we write it in a long way, so this is how we can write in a long way. That is, firstly, we are creating a file reader object and then we are passing that file reader object to the buffered reader. Okay. This is a diagrammatical representation of the same, which is like input file stream. So you can see we are having a memory. Then on the right hand side, we are having a disk. From the disk, we have used file reader to read the file, and that file reader object is provided to buffered reader, where an object is formed smiley in stream, which is to read the file. So this is a code: buffered reader smiley in stream equals to new buffered reader, new file reader smiley dot text. So this is how we actually read the file. Now, what are the methods for buffered reader? Where the methods in buffered reader are read line, which is to read the line to a string. So read line will keep on reading till the line get finishes. That means it can see the or read the enter character. So enter means next line. So till it reaches to the enter character, it will keep on reading your line. Fine. Next one is no methods to read number directly. So to read number as a string and then convert them to string tokenizer. So string tokenizer is something which is used to read the numbers and convert them to strings. So we'll cover that later on. Fine. Then we have a read method. So read method actually read one character at a time. It's a bit slow, but if you are sure that you want to read one character at a time and we have really less number of character in a file, then you can go for read method. After that, we have close method, which is to close the buffer reader stream. Now again, closing the buffer reader stream is also very important, as important is closing for writing purpose the print writer stream. Okay. Now let's see about what's the case with exception handling with file IO. Now catching IO exception. IO exception is predefined class and file IO might throw IO exception. So if you are writing, inputting or outputting, then it might throw you an IO exception. Well, catch exception in a catch block that at least prints an error message and ends the program. File not found exception is derived from IO exception. So, in a previous example where we were doing file not found exception. So, this exception is derived from IO exception. Therefore, any catch block that catches IO exception also catches file not found exception, because IO is a subclass of file not found exception. Put the more specific one first. That is, if you want to, explicitly catch file IO or not found exception, then you have to put file not found exception before IO exception. Then you will know that an IO error is something that is not file not found. Fine. So this is how you should catch an exception. So this is a code for reading a file from the name keyboard, and you can see in this code we have public static void main, then we are having string file name, and since we have to declare a file name outside the try block so that it can be used in catch and anywhere outside the try. Then in try block we are taking some input from keyboard that is using scanner. So our system.in is used to take input and our scanner object will able to read that input. So by doing keyboard.next, that is our scanner object's next method, we are able to read the file name. So this file name is given by user that which file it wants to read. After that, we are creating buffered reader object with that file name so that this buffered reader object could be able to read your file. Fine, then we have to store it somewhere. To store it, we have declared a variable string line equals to null. After that, we are reading the files. To read the data from a file, we can use input stream dot readline. So readline is a method which is used to read data from the file. Input stream obviously is a buffered reader object, and readline is a method to read the complete line. So it will keep on reading the whole line till it encounters the enter character. Fine. So it will read the line. After that, you can print that line. So over here we are simply printing that line, saying the first line is like whatever the first line is that we are printing, and then we are closing the file. So it's a very simple program. Usually when we read a file, we do something with the data, but over here we are simply printing it in a console. Then you see the exception handling that we are doing over here is we are catching two type of exception. Although we have seen that file not found is a type of IO exception, but if you want to explicitly catch file not found, then you have to write it before IO exception. That is, you have to write the catch block for file not found exception before the catch block of IO exception, so that you get to know that this is a file not found exception and all other remaining are IO exception. Because if you do it vice versa, then even file not found exception will be catched by IO exception block, and you won't get to know, and your text that you want to specifically mention for file not found in a catch block will not be printed. Okay, so you see the important steps over here: reading from user, then opening the file using BufferedReader and file reader, then reading the data, and finally after printing, closing the file. So these are the important steps that you should know. Now what I would say is like we would also like to try this example, but before that we'll continue remaining in the next video. Okay guys, thank you as of now. So let's meet in the next tutorial. Thank you.